What is up and welcome back. We are your Colorado real estate family. In this video right here, what we're going to be doing is covering 10 cities in the Denver metro area, giving you a pro and a con for each one.
All right, let's go.
If this is your first time watching, Pete and Chelsea Sweeney here, and what we like to do is cover the Denver metro and all of its surrounding cities. Give me that boots on the ground knowledge that you need to know if you plan on purchasing real estate here. If you are planning on purchasing real estate here, we have put together a top-notch team to help you out with all of those real estate needs. Give us a call or text that phone number right below. Right below right there, we always answer. It doesn't matter date or time.
And if you're not quite ready to buy, no worries. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up for this video and hit the notification bell so you're notified every single time that we put out a new video.
All right, here we go. We're going to be diving into 10 cities. Quick note on that. We are not going to be covering Denver because we're pretty much covering the Denver metro. If you are interested in pros and cons on Denver as a city, we are going to be posting a video of talking about that within probably like a week or so from this video right here. So make sure you do stick around. The first thing that we are going to cover, we'll pretty much be going, so if you got a clock, we're going from your 4 to 5 o'clock position. We're talking about Aurora, Colorado, and then we are going to move counterclockwise, kind of covering the surrounding areas of the Denver metro area. So Aurora, Colorado, and its pro I'm looking at is it is getting a ton of new development. Now, the majority of this development is happening kind of on your E470 side of things on the east side of Aurora, but it's developing like crazy over in Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah, and this is one thing I think out of all the cities that we're going to be covering today, I do feel like Aurora has had the most change for locals like ourselves.
Yeah.
Where if you're going over into Aurora, you know, the old Aurora does not look like the Aurora now. And I think that is really drawing people to that city, because if you're coming in from out of state and you don't know what Aurora used to look like or kind of the reputation that it had, it really has had a big facelift.
Now, the con that we're looking at with Aurora is going to be the schools, unfortunately. Now, the good thing about that, there are different school districts that you can go to in Aurora, but if we're looking at the main one, we're talking about it's Aurora Joint School District or something like that. That's gonna be rated a C+ according to niche.com. If you go a little bit further southwest, I guess, in Aurora, you can hit that Cherry Creek school system, which is an A according to niche.com.
Now that kind of takes us into why this is a con. Yes, you do have, you know, the multiple different districts that you can get into and find bigger schools. If you actually zoom into the Aurora district as well, you can find better rated schools as you get kind of in the nitty gritty of it, but you are going to be paying a little bit more in those areas in order to get closer to those higher graded schools.
Before we hop into that second city, what we are going to do on all these cities is cover that median sales price as of November of 2023. Aurora, you're looking at a median sales price of $477,000, and that is actually down 0.63% year over year. Now let's move a little bit further east, closer to the mountains. We're going to be talking about Highlands Ranch, Colorado.
So the pros of Highlands Ranch is actually kind of where it's located, because you do have really quick accessibility to Denver and the city. You also have a pretty nice commute over into the mountains. So figuratively speaking, the location is kind of top notch if you're trying to access both of those.
And then if we are covering that con of Highlands Ranch, something that I hate when I go down there is its constant congestion that you have down there with all the traffic. DTC is on the south side of the Denver metro area. A lot of people who do commute over there are living in kind of these areas where you're looking at like Lone Tree, Highlands Ranch, even a little further south in Castle Rock. So it does feel a lot more congested on that south side of the Denver metro as opposed to the north side of the Denver metro.
Now I will say, I do think that Highlands Ranch has changed in this fact, because I do feel like when we were growing up, Highlands Ranch wasn't that dense. Now I feel like going over there, you're like, wow, Highlands Ranch is a lot busier than I remember. So I will say that it is affecting the south side more than we're seeing in the north.
The median sales price that we are looking at over in Highlands Ranch, Colorado is $725,000. So a huge difference between Aurora, and that is actually up 12.4% year over year. The third city that we are going to be covering is Lakewood, Colorado. This is pretty much just straight north of, well, I guess a little bit northwest of Highlands Ranch, Colorado.
All right, so the pro of Lakewood is a pretty easy one. People love the fact of its accessibility to the foothills, and it also, you know, Lakewood does have Highway 6, and so going up to the mountains is also really accessible. You do get a lot of hills if you're on the west side of Lakewood, and people love feeling like they're kind of close to the mountains without having to deal with all of the things from the mountains.
Now, the bad thing about about, or I guess the con about Lakewood, Colorado is if you are on the east side of Lakewood, it doesn't feel much like Lakewood. It feels a little bit more like kind of the inner city of Denver. It feels like your big city. So if you are trying to avoid that big city feel of Denver, you might not want to be on the east side of Lakewood. What are we looking at when we're talking about that median sales price? You got a median sales price of $549,000, and that is actually up 4.57% year over year. The fourth city that we are going to be covering, just going a little further north, we're going to be talking about Arvada, Colorado.
All right, the cool thing about Arvada, and this is something Arvada's always been known for, we are seeing this less and less. However, you still are able to get that suburbia and sometimes even that rural lifestyle. So you can see farmland. Now, this has changed a lot, I will say. You know, some of the old, you used to be able to drive through Arvada and you would see, you know, farmland here and some goats here. And it was something that was really exciting. We are seeing that kind of pushed out into certain areas, but the fact that you can still get that is a big desire for Arvada. Now, the con of Arvada, which if you haven't checked out our other Arvada videos, go check them out, but it's kind of that accessibility, like the commute, because it is, you know, a little further off I-70 and you have to go through Westminster to get to 36. It is kind of hard once you're in kind of the city to get around. So you are doing a lot more inner city driving, which will add a lot to your commute. Yeah,
and so Arvada has experienced a huge boom in regards to the housing happening on the west side. They didn't really account for that. So right now they are tearing up roads, they're putting new infrastructure in, and it's cumbersome when you're trying to drive in and around Arvada, Colorado. It seems like it takes forever trying to get from like the south side all the way up into the north side. What is that median sales price? You got a median sales price as of November of 2023 of $600,000, and that is actually up 4.64% year over year. The fifth city that we're going to be covering, which is at my old stomping grounds, we're going to be talking about Westminster, Colorado.
Now, the cool thing about Westminster is it really is getting a facelift. Westminster is actually a very large city, and so there was, even though the older portions, there was not a lot of area to build, the newer portions, you know, were all new. And so Westminster does have this new, I don't know, kind of like reputation as being newer, even though majority of it is still old.
Yeah, and so the con to that, though, is the fact that they are kind of neglecting the older portion of Westminster, the area that I pretty much grew up in. And so you are seeing all this new development. The Westminster Mall is kind of the outlier to that because that is kind of in your older portion. It's actually kind of right on the border. What I consider when we're talking about like new Westminster as opposed to old Westminster is north of 120th is going to be kind of your newer portion, or I guess even 104th, because that's where you have a lot of these newer communities. And then the south side, it just seems like they're really not doing much down there. They're kind of neglecting that area a little bit on the south side.
I will say though, just as a little inside, you know, perspective, I will say that I think with the Westminster downtown, that is going to change. I think what they're doing right in the middle of Old Westminster and New Westminster is merging that together and trying to make it seem more seamless versus where it's at right now.
Let's talk about that median sales price. You got a median sales price of $435,000, and that is actually down 3.7% year over year. The sixth city that we're going to be talking about is Boulder, Colorado, and this is, I'd say, probably one of the most popular cities that we are going to be talking about when we're talking about Colorado.
All right, the pro is no-brainer here. It is the epitome of an active lifestyle. If you are looking to move in where there's walkability and there is activity, you know, and there's outdoor activity everywhere you turn, this is going to be the city for you. And they take so much pride in it that you are going to feel like you have your own city. That is something that Boulderites are very proud of.
And so what is the con to that? The con to Boulder is the fact that the cost of living is super high. So let's look overall. We always use that cost of living index, you know, comparing to your national average. Boulder's sitting at a 141.3, where Colorado as a state is at a 120.5. So it's like, all right, it's not that much more expensive in regards to Colorado. It's because we haven't talked about the housing. If we're looking over at the housing, your overall cost of living index is a 322.6, where Colorado's sitting at like a 167. So we're looking at it's about double the price to purchase a home or even rent within Boulder as compared to the state of Colorado. Now let's talk about that median sales price. We always talk about how much houses are over in Boulder, Colorado. You got a median sales price of $975,000, and that is actually up 2.63%. Now, I will say, like, when we covered the city probably back in like 2021, right around there, this median sales price was over $1 million. So we could see, like, probably if we went back 24 months, that number would be down. So it's crazy to see that it did go up year over year, just a little bit, but it still went up. The seventh city that we're going to be talking about, a city that we do love, is Broomfield, Colorado.
All right, the pro for Broomfield is this is your ultimate suburbia. If you are looking for a lot of greenery, a lot of big master plan communities, you have your older neighborhoods that are still have a really tight community, and then you have these newer communities that people are waiting for houses to pop up, like Broomfield Commons, but also Anthem, things like that. Now, the con of this ultimate suburbia is obviously there are not that many things to do. It is a little quieter in Broomfield, unless you're going to hop over to, say, Arista or
Baseline, like they're putting Baseline in right now. If you have kids, there's a ton to do because there's kids sports everywhere.
Family,
the Broomfield
everything.
Commons is like this huge park area. So if you have kids, this is great. But if you're looking for like that nightlife, you're gonna have to go on the outside of Broomfield because there's not much to do there outside of just your typical family activities. What is that median sales price over in Broomfield, Colorado? You got a median sales price of $635,000, and that is actually up 7.63% year over year. The 8th city that we're going to be covering is actually where our house is located. It's going to be Thornton, Colorado.
All right, Thornton, Colorado's pro is going to be that there are activities to do everywhere. This is a newer part, well, at least a newer part of Thornton, which takes up majority of Thornton now, has all these new amenities. Everywhere you turn, they're popping up new things to do. The con of that is that they are actually developing almost every piece of land that's available. Even with our house open, to open space, you will see all this development out, right as soon as they're able. There is development going in that is blocking some of the homeowners' view up the mountains. People are like, oh my gosh, like all of this land is getting developed. Things that some homeowners did not expect was to have all of these areas filled in, especially since Thornton used to feel so far out there.
And another thing too with a lot of that development is a lot of these schools were not meant to handle that. And so there's a huge concern kind of in the area that we're in, the northern Thornton area, where like you guys are throwing all these multi-family units, and this school is only going to fit so many kids, and so everyone's worried about this overcrowdedness of these schools. So with that development happening, they're like, what are you going to do? Are you going to build a bigger school? Are you going to build another school? That's a huge concern that a lot of Thornton residents are looking at right now. The median sales price over in Thornton, Colorado is $548,000, and that is actually down 0.81%, which I actually thought that number would be up. It's a crazy thing. I mean, it's more than anything, it's just level
more
right now.
steady.
Yeah. The 9th city that we're going to be talking about, which actually we don't talk about too often, that's why I wanted to put it in this video, is going to be Brighton, Colorado.
All right, Brighton is something that we mainly talk about if we're looking at somebody who is wanting to be close to the airport or somebody with land. So the pro that we came up with is if you're looking for land, it is a great city to do that in.
Yeah.
You do have a lot of options for that. If you are looking at the con, yes, it's close to the airport, but it's going to take you a little bit to get to Denver, and especially if you're trying to go over to the mountains. So if you are going to be commuting to Denver or the mountains often, this might not be the city for you.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate that. So if you guys do come out to us, you're like, hey, I want a property with land, most of the time we are going to be looking over in Brighton or even further north up into the Carbon Valley. And so we always look at that, but with that, you're going to be a little bit further from the city and the mountain activities that you might want to take advantage of on the weekends. If we are looking at that median sales price, it is at $573,000, and that is actually up 8.98%. There's a big driving factor to this, and the fact is on the east side of Brighton, they are developing like crazy over there. You have a ton of new homes. We've actually had a lot of clients who have chosen that area because it's right off of 76, easy commute. So it's like, all right, I don't want to be right off Highway 85 because it takes a little bit longer to get to Denver. I'd rather be off 76, have that higher speed limit, go straight into Denver. The 10th and final city that we are going to be talking about is Commerce City, Colorado.
All right, Commerce City's pro is going to be this new Commerce City. So Commerce City is one of those cities that is kind of divided. And so you have this reunion area that is brand new. It is, very close proximity to the airport, and people are loving having kind of this like to themselves area of this Commerce City address. Now, the con of Commerce City is that being locals for as long as we have, Commerce City wasn't always the city that was highly desirable because of old Commerce City. It is very, very divided. If you are in new Commerce City, most likely they're going to say Reunion because they don't even want to claim the city address, which is so funny, but it is very divided, especially because from the new Commerce City, the old Commerce City is actually pretty far away. It takes a good 15 to 20 minutes just to get from the newest part of Commerce City down to the oldest part of Commerce City. Yeah,
and so the south side of Commerce City, so it's like I said, it's so divided. The south side, it used to be a huge industrial area. And so that's why they started developing this new Reunion area, and that's why they're like, no, we're not a part of that Commerce City. We call ourselves Reunion. We're not even going to claim that name, even though our mailing address says Commerce City. The median sales price over in Commerce City is going to be $538,000, and that is actually up 3.8% year over year.
Now that is going to be very different because of the divide. I really do think Old Commerce City is bringing that number down. You will be really surprised as the changes. Actually, a lot of these cities that we cover today, we did the median sales price to give you an overall, but if there are newer parts of the city, that is something that you'll want to account for. All right, we have talked about 10 of the Denver metro cities, a pro and con for each one, and then also broke it down into some numbers for you to kind of get a flow of what things cost in the area. If you are liking this channel, please do us a favor, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up on this video, and then also hit the notification bell so you're notified every single time that we put out a new video.
And if you are looking at purchasing real estate in the Denver metro area, give us a call or text that phone number right below. Right below right there, we have assembled the best team to help you out with all your real estate needs. Until next time, we love you. Bye.
Bye.